And what I'm hearing is that there is, there's like a moral, like an enormous moral tension that all of this brings up.
You're absolutely right. There's just this conflict because when I went back to camp, it was so bizarre. We were in these trailers and sitting right next to us was this perfectly good facility, a medical facility. Sorry.
That's okay. Oh my gosh, don't even worry about it.
There's a medical facility beside us, which could have been used as a hospital administrative site. I think there's even there would have been room for people to be quartered there. And it was all finished. And I'd asked why don't we use that facility, sir? Why are we sending the administrative side way over on the other side of Qatar, or the other side of the airfield? It was far away, displaced from the sort of the combat, the squadron side. So the sheikh, I guess, the royal family, the member of the royal family that helped build or was in control of the airfield, told us that it's not finished and it wouldn't be right for us to stay in an unfinished building. Well, what's the building for? Well, it's it's the facility to take care of the guard dogs. And so I was talking to the American later about that. The American, I'm not sure if it was the American spy or was the American squadron. And he, and he told me, he says, the Americans told me, he said, yeah, he says, no, that's finished. You, of course it's usable. It's a great facility. He says, but it would just be an insult to the rest of the Arab world if Qatar, the Sheikh of Qatar would be known that he's making foreigners stay in a dog's place, in a place that's built for dogs. And then when we add like stuff like that, and we add the fact that, we had to break up the squadron for political reasons, and then we add that we had these idiotic freaking general staff that would fly in to Qatar to have and we'd have to arrange for some sort of show tour for them so that they could then, I found out later, so they could be in there long enough, just 24 hours so they can get their medal. And then we had the big one. So the big one was, so before we deployed, before we deployed to war, we knew we were supposed to go, but government didn't want to admit that we're going to go. Mm-hmm. So there's no official orders for us to go. It was very clear we were going to go.
Yeah.
So we weren't allowed to prepare. So we had to try to ad hoc prepare. And part of that ad hoc prepare was there's a really sweet administration officer we had. But she had a tough time relating to the pilots and the urgency for getting stuff done. So I became tasked with, so probably the first tasking, trying to think which came first, but anyway, find out about the enemy. We got to train for the enemy, get documents. The problem is that the Iraqis had a lot of what's called blue equipment. So blue side. So that's allies, right?
Right.
French F1s.
Right.
Right. And, or French Mirage fighters, and I think they had some F1s, but anyway, French Mirage, French Exocet missiles, some British equipment too. And so we only kept, because in 1990 we're still a Cold War, just at the end of it, and we still had, all of our focus was on the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact countries.
Right.
So we didn't have any, detailed high security knowledge of how our equipment works.
Right.
Is that right? So we got to find out that. And before I get the details about the intelligence side, I was also tasked with our administration officer and the base. We can't really trust our administration officer. She's a bit overwhelmed, and she has a tough time understanding what we need. So, Sean, we want you to take over the administration officer duties for this preparation.
Wow.
So we want you to find out what vaccines we need. We want you to arrange for us to get money so we can have some money. We want you to help develop an escape and evasion kit. Escape and evasion kit is if the pilot bails out in enemy territory or unfriendly territory or unknown territory, a kit that will help them survive. It would consist of a map. It would consist of, might be certain food. It would be local money. Figure out what local money in the different areas where they could bail out over, at Kuwait or Iraq or Saudi Arabia, and a host of other things to prepare for that. And it was ridiculous just getting a map. Because we weren't authorized, we couldn't get authorization for the map. The absurd goes, find out the vaccines. Want you to arrange also briefing, not just but we want you to be able to brief the families. This happened a bit later as we're about to deploy. I want you to brief the families on the threat that we'll be facing. And they arranged that in the base theater, and I was one of the main features of the briefing to sort of prepare the families of what we'd face.
Oh my gosh.
It was really hard. And so I was really overworked. And what made it really hard was to try to get the information on the blue forces, which should have been just a normal thing. Put up a request from the squadron, up through the wing, the base, up through to fighter group, up through to air command, goes all the way to National Defense Headquarters. Mm-hmm. National Defense Headquarters doesn't have it. They go over to Defense Intelligence Agency in the States and the Americans, and they ask them, that's their Pentagon, their military intelligence agency. They then send it back through that whole list all the way back down.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the request and it goes up. So I send it up to fighter group. It stops there. There was a lot of pettiness in our military. A lot of pettiness in some of these support branches that have a huge chip on their shoulder. And this major, I'll use his name, but you don't have to use anything, but Major Tremblay, anyway, he calls me up. And I had a warrant working for me. So when I first showed up, quick background, I had a warrant working for me. His name was Paddy Hatfield, and he had more years in military than I had alive, and he was working for me. It was very humbling as a young officer coming into that. And I think I was pretty good I was listening to me, and I allowed him to train me.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
I outranked him immensely, right? But I never pretended to laud that over him.
Yeah.
So Paddy, so just keep in mind Paddy, so he was like 53 at the time, or 52. Wow. And was super guy, Newfoundlander, just a great guy. And great sense of humor, knew how to talk to everyone. So Paddy, so anyway, I go to Major Tremblay, or Major Tremblay calls me up and says, what do you think? What do you think you want with this request? I said, well, my boss has asked me to get this request. He says, well, why do you think you need this request? I said, well, because we're going to deploy. Oh, so you have given the orders to deploy? I'm like, no, we haven't been given the orders to deploy. I said, but we're pretty sure we're going to deploy. Well, you have got to give the orders. What makes you think you have a right to this intelligence? And I'm like, well, we have to prepare even in case we don't go. Well, you think you know everything, don't you? And I'm like, no, I don't think I know everything. Well, who do you think you are working in that fighter squadron? I hear stories about you. You think you know everything. I said, no, I don't think I know everything. as a matter of fact, I said, that's why I'm asking this request, because I don't know everything.
I want to know more.
You